Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Everybody, welcome to the Combat Sports UK podcast. We are tuning in for UFC 299 review. We're going to dive straight into the main event in a minute. But I wanted to get us started on a little bit of something different, John.
Okay.
Is the UFC better with or without Dana White?
Definitely better. He's the one who built this.
Right now, though, is he better with or without?
I believe so. It's better with him. I'm assuming you're talking about the comment that he did in the post-fight press conference. I don't know. I don't have any problems. Like, the fighter still danced and did the Undertaker thing, and Adesanya did it back in Australia when he tried to unify the belts. I think it's better with him, but obviously those comments don't help after those fighters just done that.
The thing is, they've always kind of stuck to the UFC have like to separate themselves from the rest, where everyone's got the Venom gear on and everyone's got this and the champs wear black and gold and everything else. But how many times do we see that rule broken for, let's just say, people that Dana's a huge fan of? For example, Mr. O'Malley in the pink shorts. We see Conor having these certain entrances with all the smoke coming up from the octagon and everything. It's like I just feel like, even like when Izzy did it, there was no real pushback or anything else like that. It's just, you look at Francis Ngannou, because I want to talk about that in a minute too. We've got Francis Ngannou, who's been at the UFC. Dana White stood there and he said, he's not going to make a massive amount of money because he's not a Conor McGregor, he's not this and he's not that. And you look at what Francis has done now. Do you just feel like, it feels a little bit to me, I suppose what I'm trying to say is that it's like there's handcuffs on these fighters. MVP comes over and why is everyone tuning in to watch Michael Venom Page? Because he's fun, he's charismatic, whether it's the dancing. I mean, I don't know if you saw him talking on Ariel's show, but he was saying, he wanted all the lights to go dark and then appear in the octagon and then the lights go dark and he was back in the tunnel getting ready to walk, and that would have been cool as fuck, man. But we're not doing it, and boxing always takes a long time because the intros take so much planning, so much organization and stuff like that. And one of the great things about the UFC is the continual rollout of fight after fight after fight, the pacing of it. We talked about the PFL this weekend and the difference with the pacing there, for example. But it just feels like they're a bit handcuffed, some of these fighters, from becoming bigger stars because Dana says, I don't like it.
Well, here's my opinion. So when Adesanya first did the dance, I thought it was a bit cringe and it took a bit long. However, then Pereira did it, so the argument goes against it. He was on the prelims. He's not a big name, and he still did he did like 30-second dance. I kind of liked it because it was the vibe of Miami. Miami's kind of that type of vibe there. He did it, walked out, and did his thing. Right. So did MVP. MVP did an Undertaker. I like the cool little things. Unboxing, when you see Fury walking out on the throne and it takes like 3 hours for him to get from the dressing room to the ring. It takes a while. It takes away from me being tuned in and being fully concentrated. But I do like, even like when Ortega wore the purge mask. I like the little things like that, but I think you have to keep it simple. I don't think it's to go all extravaganza, stuff like that. The MVP appearing in the cage and outside the cage and back inside the cage, I feel like that's more of the commissioner rule. Like, you can't go inside the cage without being checked.
That's fair, yeah.
But I do like little stuff like that. Maybe something that doesn't take in too much in the ESPN time and pay-per-view time. Just as long as it's nice, quirky, works in with your theme, it's good. I don't think what Dana said is really true, that it'll never happen again. I think people just said, do you like it? He said no. That's Dana's opinion. I'm sure fighters will continue doing it.
We'll see. Anyway, like I said, we will get into 299, mate, but I mentioned it a second ago, and I think it obviously happened earlier on in the weekend. So I do want to just talk about Francis Ngannou. Obviously didn't go his way, to put it as politely as possible on Friday. He got absolutely smoked by Anthony Joshua and knocked out cold. For you, how is it seeing someone like Francis, who you watch, being the kind of guy he is, the size he is, the fact that he's never been hurt in the UFC? What was it like watching him get absolutely knocked out cold for the first time?
Heartbroken.
Yeah.
I was honestly stunned for a few minutes after. I thought, Ngannou showed what he did against Fury, that he might do at least more of the same against Joshua. And yeah, I was stunned. I'm still stunned. Ngannou had this air of invincibility around him. Like nobody could beat him unless you're Stipe 5 years ago wrestling him for 5 rounds. And then ever since then, he showed dominance. He showed like he was never hurt. Even when he got hit by Fury, he never got knocked down. Or he ate a big shot by Stipe as well in the championship fight against Gon as well. But he found a way to come back all the time. But against Joshua, it shows there's levels to this. Ngannou's been training boxing his whole life like Joshua did, and perhaps Fury wasn't in the best shape possible, and maybe a little bit of ring rust does come
Yeah, I
into
mean
play.
Fury was in bad shape, but also Fury's not the big heavy hitter like Anthony Joshua
Yeah.
is. You know, Joshua has gone into a bit of a state where he got caught up in here too much, and Ben Davison's done a fantastic job of reminding him that's not what you do. You don't need to box. You've got heavy hands, throw them. And
Right.
you saw the tweet just before. I think I said I thought I don't fancy this. I think this is going to be a bad night for Francis because he just looks rejuvenated to me, Anthony Joshua. But we're not here to talk about boxing, mate, are we? So, with that
We're
being,
talking. Yeah.
we'll get into the main event of UFC 299. And I suppose I should sit back and let you say a bit.
I think you're just trying to avoid that. We had an agreement that you'll wear the pink shorts or the pink hair, but the
You
pink shirt.
pull up the clip and I'll do it, but I don't remember it the way you do.
I appreciate the pink shirt, so I do respect that.
That's it.
But yeah, in the main event, how good did O'Malley look? I think. Oh, let's be fair. Cheeto wasn't supposed to be the next guy up, right? But he showed levels to it, and that was a theme for me throughout the whole card. O'Malley completely shut out Cheeto, even getting a 10-8 in round two, I believe, from by one judge. When I was watching that live, I'm like, I don't know if I'll give that 10-8, but one judge was brave enough
I
to do it.
didn't, but I couldn't
Yeah,
understand why it was given.
yeah, I couldn't argue against it, but
No.
I could at least see a 50-45. Cheeto had no answer, exactly how he previewed it, or at least how I previewed it, that Cheeto would start slow and have to find the shots. And it seemed like Cheeto was a little bit afraid of O'Malley towards the end. He was shelling up right away and trying to block the shots, but O'Malley's a sniper from the outside, did his thing, and that knee, man, that knee was pitch perfect. Only Cheeto would have not fallen. Maybe Cheeto and Max Holloway would not fallen. Get a
Yeah.
knockdown from that. It just showed O'Malley does belong on top of the division
Mm-hmm.
because Cheeto's been hanging around the whole time there. He beat Sterling his last fight. Now he beat Cheeto in convincing fashion both times. So, and still 27, 28-year-old
Yeah.
bantamweight champion. He's still young. Had a nice call out. I think it's just to set up stuff, and it's not necessarily going to be his next fight. We all know that,
No.
but it's a good setup down the future for a potential big fight.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got two sides to this. Okay. One of them is going to get me a lot of shit.
Okay.
Okay. The other one is what you've just mainly touched on there, which is that Sean O'Malley was punch perfect.
Mm-hmm.
He looked so good, man. He was so sharp. He was next to flawless. I've seen a bunch of stuff about the body shot at the end of the fifth round, but come on, man.
Yeah.
I thought he paced himself well. I thought the gas tank held up. I thought you could see that he
Yeah.
was slowing at times. And Cheetah was catching him a little in the later rounds occasionally, but I thought he just
Nothing significant.
distance, man. He just managed the distance so well. Like you said, sniper. The kid's just getting better. I said before this, I don't think he's the superstar or at the level that he believes he is, and a lot of people believe he is. And I still maintain that because I think we saw a massively packed out UFC 299. So regardless of the numbers, there's so many names on here that it ain't all about Sean O'Malley, but all he can focus on really is the performance. And the performance was absolutely top class. Like I said, that knee puts anybody else to sleep. Anybody else. Um, the bit of this that's going to get me a lot of shit is that I've seen a lot of comments talking about how brave Cheeto Vera is and how brave Cheeto Vera was. And I'm going to disagree with that. Which, when he's been in there and shown as tough as he is for 5 rounds of getting absolutely, let's be fair, absolutely beat from pillar to post by Sean O'Malley, you would say, how can you not say that's brave? I would argue it's tough.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between toughness and being brave. I think a braver fighter shoots some takedowns. I think a braver fighter pushes the pace. Like I kind of, and this isn't just me going back at what I said. Like I alluded to it. I thought Cheeto would put the foot on the pedal. I thought he would walk through O'Malley's punches. I thought he would risk being knocked out to get the win, and I just didn't see that from him. I thought it was from Cheeto. I thought Sean was great. And I think a lot of the problem of why Cheeto looked so bad is because Sean was maybe so good. So I don't want to take that away, but I just felt like you stood and had a fight at range with the best striker in your division and one of the best strikers in the UFC, and you expected to win. If that was the game plan, I take back everything I said last week because you were never, ever, ever going to win this fight. I just, you've tried, you've been as you push into that fourth or fifth round, like, shoot. Cheeto's got submissions to his name. It's your world championship fight. And with all due respect, he said afterwards, he's going to get the gold. He'll be back and he'll be a champion. I don't think he
Not with that performance.
shot. I don't even think he gets another title shot, if I'm completely honest, because I think there's just better people in the division and coming through.
Mhm.
I just don't see it. And I thought this was his one night because of what happened with Sean previously. This was his shot. Getting what was he ranked 5 or 6?
I think they were 6th, and they moved it up to 5 for this fight.
Yeah, so he was ranked 6th, and he gets a shot at the title because everyone's either faced, lost, moved up. We know how it's all played out. But he's called out Ilya Tapor. He's called out Merab. He's blanked Merab in the back after the fight. That was top class.
He 50-45 Cheeto in the cage, and then he 10-9 Marab backstage. That was hilarious.
Should start the next fight 10-9 up already. But no, I didn't want to slag Cheeto off because coming out and saying that a fighter's not been brave when they've just stood there for 5 rounds and got beat to absolute smash to smithereens in essence. His face was all bust up. I saw did you see the meme where people were saying he looked like Danny Trejo?
Because of the glasses.
I feel for him, man, but I think you're right. There's levels to this game. And Sean O'Malley proved on Saturday night he's a level, if not 2 or 3 above Cheeto Vera.
I think you brought up 2 great points. I think O'Malley proved he had a gas tank for going 5 rounds. Maybe it was the lack of Cheeto throwing it back, but we saw against Jan, O'Malley was like kind of look gas, but he took in more shots from Jan, and we'll talk about Jan later on. But it proved Cheeto could go. Cheeto. It proved O'Malley could go 5 rounds, could take a few shots,
yeah,
and keep up the volume because he beat his significant strikes record, which he had against Chris Martino, and that was a 3-round fight.
Mhm.
He beat it against Cheeto, and he was landing some shots even when Cheeto had a guard up. With the hooks were landing, the body shots. And your second point again with Cheeto, um, yeah, it was brave to him being the octagon and take all those shots, I guess. But yeah, it wasn't the best performance. It wasn't a smart performance, I would say.
No.
You have to change things up. Go for a takedown. Try something new. Some judo throws. I don't know. Try to get in.
Just
Dirty
anything,
box.
just
Yeah.
anything, just to
Get
get within the
inside.
distance, get him against the fence, wear him down, tire him out. Just letting Sean O'Malley stay at the distance and just box you is the
Yep.
stupidest thing that he could possibly have done. We talked about Anthony Joshua a while ago, and Anthony Joshua against Alexander Usyk tried to box him, and Alexander Usyk's one of the greatest boxers of the modern era. From a technicality point, go and do it. Cheeto's a dog. The reason I thought he'd win this fight is because he's a dog.
Get it dirty. Yeah.
Fight like a dog. He was waiting for Sean constantly. He was biting on all the feints. You said it, I think, earlier on. He's just looked nervous to throw because he obviously felt the power. That would have been a big factor. I just felt like Cheeto would have risked the knockout in order to get his hands on Sean, and I just didn't see that. I didn't really see any real attempt at it.
His best shot was that body shot at the last second of the fight. And what happens, because O'Malley took a little bit of a risk, got in close, but then Cheeto had to be close as well, and he threw in the body shot. If he threw in that earlier, through combos, through more leg kicks, like completely different, would have been a completely different fight. But Cheeto looked shelled up. He looked like a shell. He wasn't afraid. Yeah.
It's like, as you know, I'm a boxing fan as well, and I love the sweet science. Watching Sean O'Malley move around, the footwork and then picking the shots off, phenomenal. But Cheeto's most success in this fight was when he was kind of just lunging forward and throwing shots from here. He wasn't loading up. They weren't big, powerful shots, but it was forcing Sean on the back foot, forcing him towards the fence, and then he might miss 1, 2, and 3, but he was landing 4 and 5. He just didn't do enough. But I don't want to take away from Sean O'Malley. I was just disappointed in Cheeto Vera. I thought he had a bit more in him than what he really showed on that night. As for Sean was phenomenal, mate. So Merab's next.
Just to bring up one more point, I think anybody O'Malley would have faced that night, O'Malley would have beaten the way he looked. I think. And with that performance, it made me think that O'Malley would beat Merab.
Really?
So I'm assuming that was the next point I'm going to lead it up to.
It was.
But I think so. We obviously Merab shoots a lot, right? He blitzes and shoots a lot. And we haven't seen O'Malley get taken down so easily, especially like against Sterling, which is Merab's training partner. You get him to the cage, maybe Merab's a better wrestler. He looks for takedowns more often than Sterling. But we can't see O'Malley get taken down as easy, especially with the length he has against Merab, who's shorter than Cheeto. If he keeps that distance and does what he does this fight, I'm sure O'Malley could get it done, especially with the threat of the knee that we saw now that O'Malley has a good knee. And rumor is O'Malley has really good groundwork. I'm against Merab might be a different talk because he's such an elite wrestler. But if Sterling couldn't take him down and he had trouble, and Merab is hittable, I feel like we could see a solid win for O'Malley against Merab.
So this fight, you said this fight made you believe that he could beat Merab.
Yes.
I thought Cheeto Vera would beat Sean O'Malley because he got the dog in him. I just thought he'd tire Sean. So you'd probably be amazed to realise that I actually thought before this fight that Sean O'Malley could beat Merab.
Okay.
Now, it sounds ridiculous because you think, well, you pick Cheeto Vera to beat him, but you think he'll beat Merab. But it's about styles. Styles make fights.
Styles makes fight.
Fighter A doesn't always beat Fighter B. I'll tell you the exact moment that I thought Sean O'Malley would beat Merab. It was when he got clipped by Henry Cejudo. Because
Cejudo clipped
him and he hurt him, and I thought, Merab's obviously a very strong grappler, he's a very strong wrestler, but if you're getting hit and you're getting hurt by Henry Cejudo, who is a little guy from the divisions below, you can't take a shot from Sean O'Malley the way Chito Vera did. Yes, you might grind him down. Yes, you might tire him out. And yes, you might win a points decision. You might get a submission. It might be ground and pound, might be whatever. But I completely agree that there is a world I can see where Sean O'Malley switches Merab's lights out. And
Agreed.
I maybe wouldn't have committed to saying that before this fight, but I think he just showed level to his game, man. Like I said, I think anyone apart from Chito Vera goes to sleep on Saturday night.
Yeah, agreed. I think I'm surprised. I do agree with you that seeing Cejudo hurt Merab and even Marlon Moraes hurt Merab, although Marlon's more of a power puncher.
Yeah.
The question is can O'Malley, if Merab's chin holds up, which we've seen in the past hasn't really. He doesn't get knocked out, but he just get knocked down.
Yeah.
If O'Malley can keep hurting Merab, and can Merab still throw takedowns for 5 rounds, because it will be a 5-round fight for championship. Can he keep up that pace on O'Malley for a championship fight with O'Malley throwing those strikes from the outside, landing it, and mixing up with the punches, the kicks, and the knees?
Yeah.
Will it last for 25 minutes? And which men will fall first?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I see this fight. But how I saw him against Cheeto, he's a great, how O'Malley fights on the outside, picks his shot. And with the good takedown defense he already has, that's what makes me believe that O'Malley has this. And it'll make him make that fight versus Topuria even bigger, because they both got to defend their belt one more time.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the setup to a certain degree because, like you said, I don't think he really believed that Topuria would be next.
Right. Nobody believed it. Yeah.
No, but I don't. That's the part of Sean O'Malley, and it's not just. Sorry, I shouldn't say Sean O'Malley because it ain't just Sean. It's everyone nowadays. Ever since Conor, everyone's doing it. They all want to move and fight the guy in the next division. Like, defend the belt. Merab's next. The perfect thing to come out and say would have been, it's not the most exciting fight in the division, but everyone keeps talking about Merab, so I'm going to smash him to bits and then I'm going to move on to bigger and better things. That would have been the perfect thing to say. I get the Topuria thing because it makes everyone smile and go, ooh, and it gets everyone talking. It was a clever call out, but I think we can agree Merab's next.
Yeah, Merab's next. Like, it is a clever, like I said, it's a clever call out. It sets it up, but we all know Topuria is fighting Volk, Impossible Trilogy. We all know bantamweight Merab is clearly the next contender.
Yeah.
He dismissed Merab. He's like, yeah, I'll fight. I guess Merab is next. I'll fight him. But I have my eyes on Topuria. So Topuria, you better win that rematch against Volk and whatever you do there. So coming up there, I think it was just like it was a cheeky call out. It was kind of towards Merab, like, I don't care. I know you're cage side. You won't get your moment. Come in the cage, face off me. You won't get your moment. It's my moment. That's how I felt it.
Do you know what I felt? And this is what I don't like about it. The first thing I thought was stay in your division and defend, as always. The second one was, does he really think he can beat Merab? Does he want the Topuria fight because it's a massive money fight? You know, heading over to Madrid and headlining a pay-per-view against the local guy. Is it you know what I mean? There's always a little part of me when I see those sorts of things, I'm like, you don't want to fight the wrestler. No one wants to fight the wrestler because it's a horrible, horrible, hard fight that you're not going to get that much credit for if you win. Because he's not, we all know Merab's got all the talent, but he's not a name. Let's be honest.
He's a name outside the cage more.
Yeah.
I do think O'Malley believes he can win against him. I just think the lead up to fighting Merab, all the wrestling you'll do is drenching. But I do think he'll believe he wins, but it's going to be not as easy as he thought against Cheeto per se.
Yeah.
But you never know what You never know what happens. It's MMA until both men step in your cage. Then we'll know what happened. But early prediction, I do think O'Malley will get it done after seeing what he did against Cheeto.
Yeah. So one of the performances of the night goes to Sean O'Malley for sure.
Yes.
Let's talk about future
The
Hall of Famer, and I
yeah.
don't care what anybody says, Dustin the Diamond Poirier. What is this guy made of, man? He's just
Diamonds.
oh, he's just so committed to this game. He goes away, he has time off, he enjoys the fruits of his labor with the Conor wins and stuff like that. Comes back, smashes Chandler to bits, then comes back to defend his ranking. And the post fight speech, man, that you were just talking about, Eddie Alvarez gave me the chance to prove I was the guy. You got to return that and pay it back. And I just thought, this is why I and so many other people
Gem.
are such a
Yeah.
fan of this guy, because he's just so real, so real. And I mean, I saw Benoit Saint Denis talk about the staph infection,
Oh, yeah.
biotics, and everything else. You know what? Even if that was the case, and this is kind of a message to all fighters out there, even if that is the case, you came in, you went toe to toe with Dustin Poirier, you got caught, you got put away. Don't say anything. It happens. If you were dealing with something in the background, that's fine. Prove it next time. Come back better, come back stronger, come back. Yeah, we saw the stuff, we saw the thing on it.
Yeah.
It was clearly there. Maybe it had been an issue, but it goes like this. If you're not fit enough to take the fight, don't fight. Somebody would have
True.
stepped up, and Poirier would have taken it. You know, it's just it left a bit of a sour taste for me, because I thought you can blame it on the antibiotics all you like. The reality of the situation is you stood toe to toe with a banger and he switched your lights out.
I think, and staph infection or not, the fight would have went exactly the same way.
Yep.
How Dustin fights, it's exactly like that. It's kind of reminiscing of when he fought Hooker. Hooker had round one,
Yeah.
but round two, he matched every shot back. But Dustin is just a gem, honestly. If you're a fan of like UFC and MMA, I don't know how you could hate Dustin. He has no boring fights. He talks. He doesn't talk crap, but he talks respectively. He's like, yeah, Eddie Alvarez gave me the shot, and that was kind of the theme I saw in the another theme in here, like all the older fighters giving the lower rankings a shot.
Mm-hmm.
But how good is the top five lightweights? Because it hasn't changed for so long. They've been giving chances. Gaethje gave a chance to Fiziev, Poirier to Benoit Saint Denis,
Oliveira and Sarukin.
Oliveira Tsarukyan's coming up. Like it, people are complaining like same top five. Well, Tony dropped down, but
Yeah.
it's because they're defending their rank. They're beating top guys, and I'm interested to see what's next for Dustin. But in terms of this fight, yeah, Dustin has a chin. Still has a chin after so many years in the game at his age as well, because he's at 34, I believe.
Yeah.
So he's older in the world of MMA.
I mean,
Took some shots in the first round, answered back. The guillotine comment, we'll probably talk about it later, but I think yes, he tried the guillotine a few times in the first round. He tried it one more time in the second round. But in the second round, I feel like he was using it more strategically, not to finish the fight, but to get off the cage and to turn it around. And that's how he got the finish, because that's how he pulled Benoit Saint off of him.
Do you know, on the guillotine, whilst we're on it, I mean, it's great. It's funny.
Yeah, I love it.
The fact he just keeps throwing it and just hoping and saying, I will get it one day. And we've seen the videos of the corner saying, no more guillotines, no more guillotines. And then he's straight back out there and jumping it. But here's the thing. Yes, okay, he never got it. But if he suspected even that Saint Denis had staph infection, and maybe the gas tank wasn't what it was, what better way to hire an opponent than to stick your hand around his neck and try and choke him out? You don't have to get it, but just those few seconds where he's got him, it's blowing the gas tank. It's exhausting Saint Denis. And you could see it in the punches he was throwing, because when he got up, even though Dustin had jumped the guillotine, but when they both stood up, Dustin looked like the fresher guy. And Dustin Poirier is just exhausting to watch. If you're a fan of his, he's exhausting to watch because you're just looking at him and you're seeing him. He's getting clipped, and kind of has that style where he doesn't roll the shots. He's got great head movement, but he doesn't always choose to move it.
Yeah.
He tends to block more than he moves, and it looks from from a TV perspective at least like he's getting tagged quite a lot, but he's actually blocking a lot of shots.
Yeah, he does like the.
He has seen them coming, and that's why he's got the capacity to take the shot. It's the ones that you don't see that get you. And that's exactly what happened with the left hand, and that's exactly what happened with the right hook, because Saint Denis was tired. He was pushing forward, like you said, regardless of any kind of infection talk. He was blowing because he was going at a crazy pace with Dustin Poirier. What did I say last week? This man has been to war. This man has stood in front of every situation possible known to man, but he has never stood in front of Dustin Poirier just in his shorts.
Yeah.
That
And once he did, that's when the tides turn.
Dustin touched those shorts and then put him to sleep. I mean, the fact that he throws them shots from such a short distance, they're almost like Bruce Lee like kind of punches, they're not that he doesn't come from way back here. They're just nice and tight. His hands are in here, and he just buffs a little short one out, and he's so accurate. I thought he actually looked a little slower, Dustin.
Agreed.
Than I've seen him in the past, but the power don't go, mate. That's the last thing to go, and he landed that right hand like an absolute peach.
It's almost like Dustin wants you there, because that's how he dropped Chandler as well, right? He was up against the cage, and Chandler was teeing off, and he got that left hook on him. It's almost like he wants him there.
Yeah.
I think Poirier looked a bit slower just because Saint Denis looked faster. I think Saint Denis tried everything to put him away there.
Yeah.
So he's calculated, right? Poirier's calculated. He's been, like we talked about, he's been through this. He knows exactly. He's seen this before many times. So he probably did stood back a little bit to see to get some reads and then throw the perfect shots, which he did in round 2.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because I mean, one thing I do want to say, well, a couple of things. Number one, Saint Denis did have the back at one stage. I thought Dustin looked massively improved with regards to his defense on the mat. Saint Denis was I think it was in the first round, he got his back, and it just kind of spread him out as well. And he was looking pretty bad, but I thought he didn't panic. He defended exceptionally well. You could see, I mean, it's funny because when you do something and you don't realize you're doing it because you're that enthralled in what you're doing. I was watching this fight and I'd got my chin tucked because I was. I thought, God, my chin. Why is that sore? And it was because I tucked it right into my chest.
You're trying to help.
I was trying to move Dustin's chin. Get the chin down. And I just never realised. But yeah, just the defense has improved massively. I know there's a lot of talk about him going up against Islam next. I don't really have an issue with it, mate. I get the concept that Gaethje should be next, but Gaethje's gone in a different direction and he's got a fight booked. If Gaethje had waited, he'd have got the fight, but he hasn't waited. Charles is fighting Sarukian, Gaethje's fighting
Holloway,
Max. So we don't know what's going to happen in those fights. Nothing's a foregone conclusion.
True.
If Max beats Justin, has he got more of a claim? The one fight up at this division. I don't know, man. I'm just if Islam's ready to go, and the other guys aren't, Dustin gets a shot. And then I think you have a look at who's the most deserving once you've seen Max and Justin and Charles and Sarukian.
Agreed. I think it just shows once UFC 300 happens, they're gonna go to Islam. Like, look. Pick. You have 3 options: winner of Oliveira, Sarukian, winner of Gaethje, Holloway, because I do feel like Holloway might get the title shot if he wins, or Dustin. Those are your 3 options. Like, pick. We'll give you a date because we know Islam's gonna fight once a year, anyways.
Yeah,
and it's gonna be probably in that. I know me and Patty Dana was talking that Newark is happening. Right before International Fight Week and rumored to be Islam. I don't see him fighting in Newark, but there is the Abu Dhabi pay-per-view, which is
Yeah.
in November or something like that, or right after the summer. I do my moving around. However you see it, those are your three picks.
Well, this
You
is the
have to
thing.
pick.
I mean, he's talking about June potentially Islam, isn't he? And if Islam's going to fight June, that's why he's looking at Poirier
Yeah,
because he's the only one that's going to be ready. You know,
technically, yeah.
if
Depends how the fight goes, obviously, for both men.
yeah, of course, yeah.
For-
You know, one of them Justin goes out there and starts as Max. Let's hope not. But
yeah,
if that were to happen and he comes through unscathed, then there's no argument there unless Charles does the exact same thing to Sarukian or vice versa. But I think if Sarukian beats Charles, I still don't think he's going to get a shot over Justin or Dustin, just purely on name value.
Islam picks his fighter. So
I
if
think
he
you're right, but
prefers on names, I would
well,
go
this is what I mean. I
Justin.
think I think you're right insofar as I think Dustin gets next in June, and I think we maybe see Islam in November against either winner.
I don't see Islam fighting more than once a year. You know, the way it's been trending for him for the
Yeah,
past 4 years. Although he did fight Volkanovski twice in a year, but
I think
January and then so long after it's like it's tough.
the division's taken a little while to sort itself out, though, hasn't it? You know, obviously he was meant to fight Charles, and that fight fell off, and then we ended up getting Justin and Dustin going at it, and you know the contenders and the guys that should have been ready to face Islam. I don't think it's necessarily been Islam. I think it's been about the right dance partner being ready at the right time, and I don't think that's happened. So we'll see, man. But that's enough of that's two fights in about 40 minutes. So we'll jump on to Kevin Holland and the debut of Michael Venom Page. So MVP's finally made the debut in the UFC. We talked a little bit about the ring entrance and everything else. That was pretty cool, right?
I like that. Yeah.
I seem to remember us having a conversation last week, my friend, where you predicted a knockout, and I said, no, points win, MVP. There's ways Kevin Holland can win this, but he won't do it. So, what were your thoughts on the fight as far as a debut for MVP, and then secondly for Kevin Holland?
Terms of debut couldn't have went better other than a knockout. He wept the floor with Holland. Holland had no answers. He seemed frustrated, like the commentary team was talking about. Like just couldn't find his way in and hit. MVP, you know, he had the karate point style stance way behind and was blitzing in to land the shots. It showed like how MVP fights, you know, how I saw him in Bellator.
It's very
It was a
unorthodox.
classic, very unorthodox, but classic MVP performance.
Yeah.
Done everything he could except the finish. Had some crazy strikes like the spinning back elbow. He practiced in the back and he landed it a few times. You know, the blitz jabs he had, which knocked down Holland in the third, even though he went for a glove tap. I think Holland just to give up going for a glove tap because now he just gets screwed over every time now with Hamza and now with MVP. I think he has to abandon that, but it showed levels. You know, he showed he's definitely better than the Bellator caliber fighters. Does belong in the UFC welterweight rankings, and I'm excited to see who they match up next because there's a lot of potential. Like I heard Gary maybe he doesn't want to fight Wonderboy because he thinks it's gonna be boring, which I kind of agree and don't agree with. I think it'll be stylistically a good matchup, stand-up fight. But MVP did showed to the UFC fans who don't know him who MVP is. In terms of Holland, frustrating. I think that was the key word for him was just frustrating. Couldn't land his shots, couldn't get in. Took him down. He took him down. And Holland's a really good jiu-jitsu practitioner. So MVP stood up right away. So he definitely worked on his takedown defense and get-ups. We'll see what's next for Holland, but Holland type of guy you have to put him in fun fight. Somebody who can be more cocky than his opponent. That's what I would say.
I think that's kind of a big part of it is that Kevin Holland is used to being the A side in a lot of these fights when you come to who the character is in there. And I think he realized that wasn't going to be him this time round. But I don't know, man. Kevin Holland looks like he's lost a step. I just feel like he's not. He's had holes in his game for a while, but I don't think it's necessarily the skill set. I think it's just the mentality of the game. He just, I don't know if he really enjoys it, if I'm being honest. There were, we used to watch Kevin Holland a while back, and I know maybe it's because he's picked up a couple of defeats, but win, lose, or draw, Kevin Holland was in there having fun. You know, I'm not sure I'm seeing that a lot now. We talked about his last fight against JDM, kind of seemed to be struggling a little bit, and I know they were trying to cut out the showboating and the talking and everything else, but I think in doing that, he just doesn't look like he's having a good time in there. I mean, this, with all due respect, I like MVP. He's got an unorthodox style. He adds a bit of excitement. I think a clean striker like Leon Edwards causes him all kinds of trouble. But
Yep.
I think Kevin Holland just struggles to get going at the minute. He just doesn't seem to be. I mean, he's lingering around. He's obviously his ranking's been taken now, but he'll still be ranked. He's just going to drop. But he's almost gatekeeper level now, and it seems a little bit disappointing to be talking about Kevin Holland as a gatekeeper.
But you mentioned JDM and Holland. They're elite fighters, right? They're a level above Holland. So it makes sense Holland couldn't find his stride in those fights. Although he did bring JDM to a split decision. But I think he had like, okay, I'm ranked. Maybe I should fight more conservative to climb up the rankings, get that title shot eventually. That's how I feel he was his mentality where his mentality was.
Hmm.
But he's fighting elite fighters like JDM, and JDM called out Hamza, which is like not Hamza, sorry, Shafkat. And who does that? Who everybody's avoiding that guy when JDM's like, I'll
Yeah.
fight him.
Uh-huh.
So I'm sure Holland would do the same, call out anybody, but there is levels. He is not top 8, top 10 caliber welterweight,
No.
but he needs to have, he beat Chiesa his last win, which was pretty nice. There's levels, and he 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 wants to show he takes it more serious. After he got out wrestled by Brunson, he took wrestling classes and stuff like that. But he's a step behind. He's a step behind a lot of fighters.
I mean, I've loaded his record up here, mate, just because whilst we're talking about it. I mean, there's obviously names on there, and there's some wins from guys down lower in the rankings. I mean, he's got debut was a loss to Thiago Santos. You've got a win over Phillips. You've got a win over Meerschaert. There's a couple of others in there. There's the Brendan Allen one, obviously. Um, then he's got a win over Fluffy Hernandez, which, given how he's looked,
Right now, yeah,
it's it's looking a
also
little
four.
bit gone.
That was also 4 years ago now.
Yeah. But this is
And
my point
Fluffy
is like even
improved.
still like yes he has improved massively but you still look you look down the record there and then you've got a knockout of Joaquin Buckley. You've got a decision win over Stewart. You've got, trying to skip through a few here, you've got a knockout of Souza. We all remember that one. Then you talked about guys at a certain level, and you mentioned JDM. We can come on to that because we'll talk about scorecards and things as well. But you got a loss to Derek Brunson, which I think we can all agree that Derek Brunson is not top tier caliber. You've got a loss to Marvin Vettori, who we can all agree is a solid fighter, but he's not the elite. And I know we're talking about a difference in weight classes and stuff like that.
It was also short notice against
Yeah,
Vittori.
yeah, but come on, we're talking about Kelly Holland. If I said that every time there was a short notice fight in here, we'd be going for hours.
Sure.
But then, we've got a win over Oliveira, we've got a win over Tim Means, we've got the loss to Hamzat, blitzed by Hamzat, knocked out by Wonderboy. That was a great fight. Then we've got a win over Ponzinibbio, a win over Chiesa, sorry. You've got a loss to JDM and now a loss to MVP. I'm just wondering whether Kevin Holland is ever going to be any better than what he is currently, or is he gatekeeper material? Because there are a couple of signature wins in that list, but there's also a lot of losses to a lot of people who I wouldn't consider to be A-level fighters, let's say. in the UFC.
Well, let's agree. What got Holland this far was him being the entertainer he is, right?
Yeah.
That's how, and
Mhm.
entertainer agreeing to short notice fight, so it made him on the positive side of Dana in the UFC, right? So that's
Yeah.
what got him to be in the rankings, and fights against JDM and MVP. But I think we saw the best of Holland. What this is what Holland is somebody who talks in the cage,
Mhm.
has a long reach, could sometimes land and
Yeah.
will hurt you, and has solid jiu-jitsu, so sometimes he could catch you in submission.
Yeah.
Um, but he's not an elite type fighter. He's a good fighter, but not elite.
No.
That's so this is who Holland is, exactly how you just described him.
So given what we've just said there, I had this fight scored 30-27 MVP. Don't think it was close. I would argue you couldn't give Kevin Holland a round.
No.
Um, so is MVP that good? Or is
MVP
Kevin Holland just not that good?
MVP is that good, and Holland is that fighter we just talked about, and it went exactly how it's supposed to go. Other than a knockout
Yeah.
for MVP, I don't remember Holland getting knocked out by anybody. He only got finished by Hamza, I believe. But
It
Hamza,
was-
steamrolls everybody. That if he steamrolls, he finishes the person.
yeah.
So honestly, it depends on MVP how good he wants to be,
Yeah.
because he is ranked now. He has some good fights. The welterweight division is stacked.
So he
So
doesn't want Wonder Boy. So who do you put in front of him next?
I would put probably Gary. Get that fight
If
hype.
I like the fight, we touched on it last week. If you're Ian Gary, are you fighting MVP?
Oh, if I'm Gary, I'm not fighting Gary. I'm not fighting MVP. I'm fighting up
It's,
the rankings. Yeah,
it's not happening, is it? That's the
but
point I'm making. It's a fun fight, of course, but he doesn't want the Wonder Boy fight. I think we've got Luke and Brady. No, who's Brady fighting? Is it?
Luque.
It is Luke.
Yeah,
They've got Luke and Brady fighting. Bilal's tied up. Shavkat's, going to be out for a while, but JDM's after that one on the way back. We're looking at Jeff Neal.
Jeff Neal, Gilbert Burns. Um,
Gilbert Burns would be a fun one.
could be a fun one. Yeah, I just think if I'm the UFC and I'm going back to Ireland, I think it
Hmm.
would be a pretty good fight if you pay a little bit of Gary more. It'd be like, hey,
Yeah.
especially Gary's last performance wasn't the best, even if it wasn't his fault. Prove who you are again. Here's a big name fighter, MVP. MVP is a big name, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And Gary wants those big names on his record, I feel.
Well,
So headlining Ireland against MVP, everybody's from that area. I think that would be pretty good, pretty massive fight. Because I don't know who else you would at the moment rank, who you'd match them
I
up.
I have a different take. So it was rumored and or mentioned this weekend that we're going to be coming to
Yes,
Manchester, England in July.
fight night.
If that's going to happen, Ireland might not be on the cards after all,
Right.
because that would be two UK fights, and we don't see that often, especially if one's going to be in July. So how about Ireland gets pushed to the back burner? That gets rolled into maybe March next year, and Ian Gary fights in the interim, finds his way to title contention, and fights Leon Edwards in Ireland for the belt.
That could be one way that'll play out. But Gary has to have another win for that to
Yeah, it does.
happen. Right. So
Yeah.
who will Gary fight? There's so many contenders, like
Maybe two
haven't
after his last one.
maybe. But if he comes out and, like, let's say hypothetically fights Usman,
Mhm.
knocks him out in the first round, you can't
Yeah.
deny him of a title shot.
No, no.
And then you have a little setup, Bilal's next. Maybe.
Yeah.
Um maybe Bilal's like 2 or 3 away. But then Shafkat and JDM, that'll be a sick matchup. That'll definitely be the winner of that. Will get the matchup. So you need other lines up.
Yeah.
So there is there's no lack of opponents. It's just finding the right dance partner for you.
Yeah. Um, there is. I wanted to just talk about the welterweight division for a minute because I saw, and I'm just trying to find it here. Just bear with me.
Is it Colby moving up to fourth?
No, I've not seen that. Don't tell me that's
JDM took fifth spot, and then Colby Covington took the fourth spot in the rankings.
Jesus Christ. I can't cope. Um, yeah, there's a guy I follow on social media on Twitter. Andy Hickey MMA. Little shout out there if you look. Um, he put a tweet out yesterday saying Jack Della Maddalena, Ian Gary, and Shavkat Rakhmonov are the only three ranked welterweights in their 20s. They're a combined 20-0 in the UFC. They should not be matched against each other at this point, in my opinion. Time for Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman to defend their rankings. Thoughts?
I agree on some parts. I agree on Kamaru Usman and Colby to defend their rankings.
Yep.
However, I'm going to use one of your phrases for to not match up Gary, Shafkat, or JDM together is bullocks.
I love it. I
I
love it.
think you have to see it. They're gonna fight eventually each other, and it's either you're gonna be defending the belt against one or the other, or you're fighting each other before the belt. They're
Yeah.
right now. It makes sense for three of them to be matched up together. They're where they are in the rankings. Their win streaks on the line. Shafkat and Gary being undefeated. That's
Yeah.
that's why that's why UFC is different from boxing. You always complain how boxing it's all the stat pattern, nobody fights the right person. This is fighting the right person.
So
You
it's funny.
yeah,
It's funny you say that, John, because my reply was, I said I couldn't disagree more respectfully. It wasn't a dig or anything else like that. But he said, "How would you match them up?" I didn't necessarily go into that, but I said I came into MMA from boxing. So many huge fights were put on hold in the hope that both fighters with a perfect record would make it to the very top and then challenge for gold, making the fight even bigger, only for one of them to lose or both of them to lose and the fight to no longer become relevant.
exactly. Yep. Good point.
That's one of the reasons I came to this sport. The best fight the best. The O isn't important. If JDM wants Shavkat, then let's make it happen. I understand the sentiment of in with the new, out with the old. But look at Connor, Dustin, Max, Gaethje, etc. They all face each other early in the UFC careers. Didn't hurt any of their futures. If anything, you could argue that those fights made them who they are today, win or lose. As for the welterweights, I said basically along the lines of Gilbert Burns, Sean Brady, Vincente Luque, MVP. Let them fight it out too, or make Kamaru Usman. Usman's a little fluid. I don't have an issue with Usman really. He just fought Hamzat. Let's not pretend he's ducking anybody here.
Sure.
But Colby needs to defend against someone down the rankings. Somebody like, in my opinion, an MVP,
Yep.
a Jack Della Maddalena,
Mm-hmm.
somebody of that ilk. Shavkat's above them guys now. But let let the older guys fight amongst themselves. Let Neil Magny and Jeff Neal run it back. Let those guys figure out what's happening. And whilst that's happening, the winner will earn a shot at one of the new guys, or vice versa. And then it will work its way out. But you can't avoid putting the top fighters together because all you're doing is missing out on some great fights.
Absolutely. You have it's only gonna be great fights. You can't protect the fighter. You can't protect their O. You can't protect um their reputation in a way. But like if you do match up like Shafkat and Gary, yeah,
Yeah.
and O has to go.
Uh-huh.
But how great would it see how that fighter who loses the O bounces back in his next fight
Yeah.
and creates a rivalry in the division. They're
Mm-hmm.
both young fighters who, like you said, they're both under 30
Yep.
on the left. So it's just gonna create more future matchups. And depending how
Mm-hmm.
good the first fight goes, you could recreate a second, a third,
Yeah.
and um just I like how you mentioned lightweight division. Yeah, you have all these Oliveira, Justin, and Dustin all in
Yeah.
the rankings recycling the title shot, but and they fought early on. It doesn't hurt the division. It
No.
just shows
Well, if anything,
they're
it's
at the
it's
top.
part of what makes you look at Dustin Poirier now. It's part of what makes him a legend because when you look at his
Absolutely.
resume, you go killer, 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 killer,
Yep.
killer, one after the other, after the other, after the. They're all in there. All the big names, he's fought them. They're all there. Win, lose, or draw. And when you look at that resume, you go, Jesus Christ, this guy's fought everybody. What an absolute gem. And so, keeping on the welterweight topic, there's two more we've got to talk about.
Yes.
Gilbert Burns, Jack Della Maddalena. First question I'm going to throw to you. How were you scoring the fight prior to the stoppage?
I believe I had Burns. I have to rewatch it. I think live I had a 1-1,
Yeah.
but I could argue against a 2-0
Mhm.
for Burns.
So most people I was seeing had it 1-1,
Yeah.
and I was shocked. Well, I went onto socials just in between rounds, and I put my scores in. I flicked onto Twitter, I had a quick scroll, and I'm seeing 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, and then I'm seeing 1-1 pop up on the TV from some tweets that were picked out as well. And I thought, Gilbert Burns is winning this. He's two up for me. And the first round was close. The first round was the close one. The second one was definitely a
Yes.
Gilbert
Exactly.
rounds. But the issue for me with Jack Della Maddalena was it wasn't busy enough. Similarly to the Kevin Holland fight, just wasn't. Gilbert was not throwing clean shots. He was not fighting the smartest fight or doing anything spectacular. He was just busier.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact he was busier was winning in the fight. He won the first, he won the second, and then he made a mistake that you shouldn't make as experienced as Gilbert Burns is. And as I said in the review pod, Jack Della Maddalena will catch him at some point, and when he does, I fear it'll all be
Yeah.
over. That's exactly what happened.
But what a shot. The
What
knees
a
were
shot.
the knees that night were on
Beautifully
point.
timed knee.
Uh that was yeah. Yeah, Burns huge mistake on his part.
Mhm.
I do see how people are scoring around 1-1. It's because
Yeah.
of lack of damage
Yeah.
Burns did. It was more like advancing and taking down and
That's
trying
what I'm
to.
saying. It's pressure, being busy. It wasn't anything, clean shots necessarily. There just wasn't a lot to score in the first, in particular.
And I did like JDM. He has beautiful body shots. He has
Yeah,
really nice body shots, and when he was chasing Burns, that's when he put it. That's when he was winning most of the fight. He was chasing Burns, and he was throwing those hooks to the body. That's
yeah,
when I like he. That's where most of the damage of the fight came from, other than the knee. But JDM at the end of the day did what he had to do to win the fight.
yeah.
He saw that coming, timed it, got done and the ref gave a lot of time for Burns to recover.
Mhm.
That was a long time to stop the fight, and Burns didn't recover. JDM has excellent ground and pound, has good shots. So I'm happy for JDM. He talked about how two split decisions back to back
Yeah.
will not let him to a title shot. He
Mhm.
needed this win. Maybe he'll bring back his confidence of who he was prior to the two split decisions and being a finisher.
I think he needs to. I think it needs to because, like you said, I think when you look at the resume and you look at, years to come, he looks at Gilbert Burns knockout. It looks fantastic.
Yeah.
The story of the fight, a little bit different. There's a lot he's got to improve on. He's got to get busier. He's got to have a lot more faith in himself, mate, because the hands are there. When he starts putting his shots together, he goes upstairs and he comes back downstairs with a body shot. He throws one round a hook round the side, then he chucks in an uppercut, and you think, fuck, the hands are amazing. He just isn't doing enough with them, and I don't know if it's like he boxes so well that it's like he's waiting for the perfect counter, but he doesn't have to. He can be a front foot fighter. He can put the pressure on. He doesn't need to worry too much about what's coming back. He's got a chin. He's got everything he needs to progress. He just needs to. I think he just needs to believe in himself a little bit more. But for Gilbert Burns at this stage, fast approaching 40 now. I mean, Gilbert's one of my favorite fighters. He's always so exciting. He's balls to the line, on the line. He just has just fallen short fell short against Kamaru Usman, has struggled getting back there. He didn't look bad, but he definitely looked like
He didn't look explosive.
he'd been out for a while.
Yeah. My memory of Burns is like when he like blitzes in and throws that like looping right hand, like how he knocked out Damian Maya, how he
Yeah.
knocked down a few other fighters. He I haven't seen him from that in a long time, right? Like he fought like a retired Masvidal,
It
couldn't get him
it
out.
seems a little bit like the Hamzat fight took something out of him.
Most definitely, the way it went, how many shots they both, well, he took especially
Yeah.
balls deep into like, I'm just gonna stand and bang and throw everything, the kitchen fridge
hmm
at him, kitchen sink, or rather
Kitchen
say,
sink, kitchen fridge,
yeah.
throw everything. Yeah, it's a tough one because he's such a cool dude, man. I saw him crying after the fight and everything. He loves this game. I think that my issue with Gilbert sometimes is he has a massive advantage in the grappling, and he doesn't really go to it anywhere near as often as he should. But that's another part of the reason that you love him, because you go to the ground with him, he's going to submit you, but he can also knock you out. It's just 38 years of age, I think 37, 38 now. I'm not saying it's time to call it a day, because I think he's still a real problem for a lot of people in that division. Like I said, I think a fight with MVP or something like that would be great next.
Yep. But
It's
I feel
just,
this is the time we'll start seeing him dropping down the
yeah,
rankings.
yeah, I think so.
I do have a question for you. Do you think, as a boxing fan, does JDM have the one of the better boxing in the UFC,
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
especially in the welterweight division?
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's clean. He just, like I said, just don't put the. You can tell he's from that boxing background because it seems like he's worrying about everything else. He's worried about takedowns, he's worrying about kicks, he's worrying about knees, and to see him land a knee like that, that's when a boxer lands a knee and knocks somebody out, it's nice to see
Yeah.
because it will give him that little bit more confidence as a mixed martial artist. But the hand's a beautiful man, but it's not boxing. He's got to work a little bit on closing that distance against somebody who's not just going to throw hands back at him. Somebody who might be looking to shoot, somebody who might be looking to throw knees or kicks. But
Like a sharp cut.
technique wise, it's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
nice, it's tight, it's composed, and he throws it without much.
With
He throws feints really well, and he throws it quite discreetly when he does throw. He throws punches in bunches, and it's kind of fives and sixes are landing, and you might have covered up and caught the first few, but he just rips you to the body, rips you back to the head, and you don't know where they're coming from. So
and they seem like hard shots.
yeah, yeah,
Like he's been doing it since the trial. So yeah, I want to
yeah,
hear your opinion on that.
yeah, definitely. Final fight on the main card. Petr Yan finally wins one. Um, we thought that he'd win this one, mate. We called it beforehand, but as a fight, what thoughts on Petr Yan? Because for me, I said he'd be back to his explosive best. I didn't see that. I saw him get a win. I saw him get a solid win, but I saw him struggle. I saw him dig deep and grind it out and force the win, if you like. But it's really hard to tell, isn't it? Because he's still young and he's been way low on confidence, mate. And he really needed a win. And I think off the back of a win, next time out, he'll probably look even better. But this time, I thought he looked a little bit rugged, a little bit slower. And yeah, I think probably just the heart and the desire to win this fight won him it rather than anything from a skill side. I think, we talked about it before in the build up to this fight that Song Yadong is a solid fighter, but that's where you'd probably stop. You wouldn't have too much to say outside of that. Yeah, what were your thoughts on it?
No, I agree with that. It looked like Jan has PTSD of being
Mhm.
taken down.
Yeah,
And he's so nervous about being taken down and is that it would disrupt his timing and movement that he had to restart the stance, get the timing and reading back again. So that's what I feel he was nervous about. And Song Yadong wouldn't be afraid to take down the fighter. his opponent.
Yeah.
But I think it's a solid win for Jan. It's what he needed to come back. And Song Yadong kind of matches Jan in terms of boxing. There's a level underneath, but
Yeah.
he does match. You know, Yadong started off really strong too. He was pushing the pace in round one, and Jan had to build up and come back in the last two rounds. And I liked how we saw different things from Jan with the takedowns, an unorthodox takedown.
Yeah, that's what I was
The
just going to
trips.
mention a minute ago. It was nice to see him chuck that in and mix it up because he probably stole in that one of the rounds. Just throwing that in there, it definitely helped, insert his dominance on the round, if you like. He seemed like a little bit like a fighter that's having a bit of an identity crisis.
Yeah,
You know,
that's obvious.
he seems a little bit like he doesn't really know what he's doing. Is he a boxer? Is he a push forward fighter? Is he a back foot fighter? Is he well rounded enough? Is it the kick? It's great being a mixed martial artist and doing everything, but he looks like he doesn't know what to do in what order at the minute, and he kind of just did everything he could to put it together. And I might be being a little harsh because he did win the fight, and I thought, I didn't have any issues with him winning the fight, but it was yeah, I wouldn't say I was blown away by his performance. I was just kind of happy to see him get the win and just hope that he can grow on it next time out.
To me, it was still an entertaining fight. Like it was blow for blow. They matched each other's
Yeah, yeah.
energy. It wasn't a boring fight. I know people were dissing it for some reason on Twitter, but like I think it was a really fun fight, showcase for the bantamweight division.
Hmm.
Yan kind of put his ranking on the line after a 3-fight losing streak. For Yandong, who's way higher in the rankings, and he proved that he still belongs in the top five. This is what Cheeto should have done against O'Malley, change it up,
Yeah,
and then Yan did.
yeah.
And you saw the
Hmm.
adjustment, and definitely a confidence builder. He felt relaxed after the fight. I feel like he was tense before the fight and like the
Yeah,
press conference and the weigh-ins and stuff. But after, when he was Yadong in the back and walking around the Instagram stories I saw, he seemed relaxed. It definitely
yeah,
a lot of relief for him as well. It's interesting who will set him up next because
yeah.
don't give him a wrestler. Keep him confident on the feet.
I mean, I saw Corey Sandhagen called Umar out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wouldn't mind seeing Jan Sandhagen too.
I wouldn't mind that either. That was an amazing first fight, which Jan had some crazy combinations and
I don't fancy it for Jan.
oh
I know
no,
he. I don't know. I just think Corey Sandhagen is massively improved. I mean, we saw what he did wrestling wise to Rob Font. It
well
wasn't
sure.
exciting, but it was dominant.
Sanhagen shot up while Jan shot down.
Yeah, and
Since the fight.
I just think, yeah, I think Corey Sandhagen's going to be I think Corey's still going to be a massive problem moving forward. I really do.
I agree.
Talking about people that we called this one, mate. We called the next one too, didn't we? And I was delighted with this one. With all due respect to Jailton
Mm-hmm.
Almeida, got exactly what he had coming to him, and not because of his personality or anything else. But you play a defensive game, you can expect that somebody of a higher level at some point is going to switch it up. He tried to Derek Lewis, Curtis Blades, and Curtis Blades smashed him to bits eventually.
Eventually, but that's what happens when you're matched up with another wrestler, but who knows takedown defense and get ups, who's been wrestling
Yeah.
most of his career, most of his life. And there's levels to this. There's levels to this. You did huge mistake. What
Hmm.
are you with a takedown, trying to finish the takedown? You've been up there for 30 seconds or a minute.
Yeah.
And these are heavyweights. So any shots to the head will hurt you.
Yeah.
I
I,
think it just lack of IQ for Almeida.
I
Huge lack of IQ or
I
lack
think
of
it's.
skill.
Do you know? I think the thing is, right, I think he had that much kind of success, if you like, if you want to call it that, in the first round, that he just thought, let's just keep going. And the problem is when you fight those more higher tier elite fighters, like Curtis Blades has seen that before. It's like what we were talking about
Definitely.
with Marab earlier on. Top fighters will go. You can't do that for obviously 3 rounds in this case, but you can't do it for 3 or 5 rounds. You can't just shoot because eventually I'm going to get the timing on you. I'm going to catch you, and when I do, I'm going to hurt you. And that's exactly what he did. And I said with the Derek Lewis thing when we were talking about it last week, he fought Derek Lewis the way that he did out of fear. because he didn't want to stand on his feet with Derek Lewis. He didn't want to get into that bit, and you can't fault him for that. But even when he had him on the ground, it was a very safety first approach, and this was the same thing. I think he knew Curtis Blades was a bigger threat because he's got better wrestling than Derek Lewis, who has none. He's got
Lewis has one strategy and just stand up.
Yeah.
Block that.
But Curtis Blades isn't that guy. He is fairly well rounded and stuff, and it was just nice to see. You want to change your mind on that Aspinall idea, mate? No, Tom Aspinall, you said 2024.
I just see. Do you really want to see that rematch?
I do, because I'm a UK-based guy. I get it. If you're in the States or somewhere like that, you're not interested necessarily. But if you're the point I was making to you last week remains the same here, and we've seen it. Obviously, Tom's been onto socials and already said, "Yep, let's do it." So
I think he's itching for a fight. That's why
he's itching for a fight, but he wouldn't have fought Jailton Almeida and put that on, that interim title, if you like, on the line. I don't mean that is in the actual title. I just mean the position that he holds, let's say, in the heavyweight division. But Tom Aspinall's record shows a loss to Curtis Blades. And if Tom Aspinall wants a keep busy fight, he's not going to. He wouldn't have fought Jailton Almeida because he doesn't feel like Almeida's done anything or does anything for him. He wouldn't have been interested in fighting Cyril Gane because he's offered that opportunity to Cyril Gane, and Gane's very clearly turned that down. And the only one that would have made any sense for me would be Curtis Blades, purely because Tom wants it.
Don't get me wrong. I love Aspinall. I'm a huge fan of him. I'll say this. If he didn't have the interim belt, absolutely book it. That's my only issue is the interim belt. You can't defend an interim belt. And how badly does it look on you if you do lose against Curtis and it wasn't for a championship kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't think he does anything badly for Tom. I think obviously the loss would just define itself. I don't think the belt necessarily does anything. I will agree that I don't think there should have been an interim belt. It didn't need to happen. Everyone knew that Pavlovich and Tom were the number one contenders, if you like, outside of Stipe. We'll move on from that. But I think if you do introduce an interim title, which John Jones is going to be out for a period of time, that's fine, bring it in. But you know where I stand on this. If that's the case, Tom Aspinall fights John Jones on his return. Or you give him Stipe Miocic next, and the winner can fight John Jones when he comes back.
To me, because of the interim belt, that's the only asterisk. That makes more sense. Aspinall versus Stipe. And if Jones is ready, Aspinall Jones. If no interim, and I'm pretending there's no interim on Aspinall's waist, then yes, rematch Curtis Blades, total sense. Prove that loss. It was actually because of an injury.
Yeah.
Get it back. You said there's a Manchester fight card.
Yeah, July,
Yeah, July, so maybe there. But I'm still sticking to, because of the interim, he's not fighting this year.
Yeah, I think you will find that probably July, Tom Aspinall, Curtis Blades happens.
Prove me wrong. I would love to see Aspinall back. So I'll just prove me wrong.
Yeah. Just a quick, we'll quickly skip through some, mate. But I wanted to just talk about Macy Barber and the kind of the rebirth, if you like. Up to number 4 in the rankings now, I'm just seeing. Behind Manon Fiorot, Erin Blanchfield, and Valentina Shevchenko, with the champion, obviously, Alexa Grasso, and tough contenders. Tough contenders suggest Grasso Shevchenko's happening.
Well, yeah, makes sense.
I mean, we said the same about Conor and McGregor, but we've got to just believe that that's how it's going to work.
Still happening, but years later.
Yeah. So then you've got Fiorot and Blanchfield,
and they're matched up.
They're going at it. So what do you do with Macy Barber next? Jessica Andrade is 5.
Because if you want to give,
because Grasso's facing Shevchenko, they're tied up.
Right.
Blanchfield and Fiorot are the only 2 above her, but they're both fighting for the opportunity at the title next. Do you take the loser?
You take the loser, or there's Uh,
I mean, I'm
or
looking at it
wait,
here. You've got
loser,
Andrade. In
loser,
fact,
Andrade, or wait.
yeah,
That's your three options. And because Farhat and Blanchfield are happening in Atlantic City, which is in a month and a half, I believe, or less. So you won't be waiting that long. It depends on how much your obligation suspension after a fight will be. But
yeah,
we won't see her out for too long. She's right on the cusp of a title shot.
yeah. And it's not far away, is it? Blanchfield and Furo.
It's Atlantic City.
Yeah. So
So
it's not going to be. They're not going to be long before she's back in anyway. Really. But I think that's probably the one then, isn't it? Macy Barber
March
against the
30th.
loser.
March 30th. And it's in 2 weeks and in a month.
Yeah. But solid win for her. So congratulations. So rest of the card, mate. I mean, we've just talked Macy Barber. The next one on the card was Mateus Gamrot finding his way to a boring unanimous victory against RDA. I mean, I hate to say I told you so, mate, but I
Oh,
told you so.
I had Gamrod. I had Gamrod.
Yeah, I didn't say contentious. I mean, I just said it was going to be a boring fight.
Oh, yeah. I always have hope. That's why I always have hope. Like these fights could be entertaining. But I'm realizing now I don't like Gamrot's style at all.
No, no. It's definitely not the most fan appealing style, is it? Let's be honest. It's very much what we said before. It's very safe. It's clinical. He's good. He's a good fighter, but he's going to struggle to find his way to gold without. He's going to have if he's going to get to the very top, he's going to have a very Leon Edwards-esque run. He's going to need to get on sort of an 11 fight win streak, and it's going to be
And
a hard
again,
sell whoever he comes up against.
um, I prefer talk about the knee RDA landed because
Yeah,
that was on point. Like I said, the knees were beautifully done this week or this
yeah,
past Saturday. I thought he looked hurt. He looked hurt, but he went back to his natural instinct and grab a leg and try to go for a takedown. I don't like when fighters go right away and they do like a turtle shell and they
yeah,
try to grab the legs. I mean, if that's your fight, if that's your style, at least make it entertaining somehow. Get a top
yeah.
position, throw some ground and pounds, get some elbows.
Survival. It's just
Yeah,
survival 101. That's all it is. There's no other intention there at that stage. It's just hang on, wait till the senses clear.
you're getting your paycheck worth for it, I guess, for every
Yeah, that's
second you're
it.
in the octagon. Because
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to waste a lot more time on Gamrot and RDA. I suppose it's just one of those, isn't it? Gamrot's wanting to move up, but no one above him is going to stick the hand up. I mean, whether Fazeev comes back and they run it back, that might be one to go for. But
he's gonna be waiting for a while though.
he is going to be waiting for a while. But is anyone in a rush to see Gamrot in there? With all due respect,
He has to fight down.
yeah, he does
Maybe
have to
get that
fight
win
down.
back against Dariush.
Yeah, he has to fight
Maybe
down, or he has to fight sort of some of the losers from 300. Oh, be
well,
it a
definitely if like
Sarukian or
Tsarukian loses, he definitely could rematch them and
yeah,
end that rivalry. Like it was a sick first fight
yeah.
because they're both matching their levels of wrestling.
Hmm.
However, I don't think the second fight will go like that. And I think Tsarukian has evolved more than him
Yeah,
than Gamrot. So I do
definitely.
see it playing out later different. But yeah, you gotta wait for the loser. And he's obviously not fighting Poirier because of his because
Yeah,
they're training partners.
yeah, yeah. Michel Pereira, bit of dancing to the octagon, followed by a first round knockout.
That was so fun. That was so fun. It wasn't like a long fight, right? Like we talked about it. I talked about
Yeah,
it earlier. It was 30 seconds, 45 seconds.
yeah.
Pleased the Miami crowd. He loves Miami. He shows it, and exactly what you have to do coming out dancing. You
Hmm.
steamroll your opponent like that. I
Yes.
actually gave a little yes. I gave a little bit of a chance for Ola Jacek because
So did
he has a
I.
bit of knockout power, but
Yeah.
he steamrolled him. He's like bang, the body shot, took him down, and then found a choke.
He's just
Just
a force, and
perfect.
him not cutting weight to get down to
Yes.
welter anymore. He's just doing him the world of good, I think.
He's what on a 6 fight win streak now.
Is it
He's on
6?
a one, two, three, set 7 fight win streak.
Yeah, I mean, he
7 fight win
just
streak now.
just gonna
So
keep picking his way up there, isn't he?
I feel like to reward him, you might give him a ranked opponent next or close to the rankings. He's just
I
outside
think
of
they
it.
need to, mate.
He's a fun fighter.
I think if you're blowing through those kind of fringe sort of level fighters, if you like, you need to be looking for that sort of thing next. I mean, I've just got the middleweight rankings here. You've got Chao Baralho at 15. I think he's just got a fight announced.
301, yeah, he's fighting 301.
Yeah, and then you've got Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis would be,
Chris
in all
Curtis.
seriousness, Chris Curtis for me is an easy ranking to steal, with all due
Yep,
respect. You've got Paul Craig there. I think I love Paul Craig, but I think stylistically that's a horrible matchup for Paul Craig. Um,
agreed. Jack
Fluffy
Hermanson.
Hernandez is going to be fighting up. And then you've got Hamzat, which he's not going to get. Jack
He's not going.
Hermanson. Jack
That'll be
Hermanson's
fun.
one he could maybe get. Delidze, Imavov. That's, it's those kind of guys you want to be looking at. But if you're looking just purely for a rankings as a starting point, I think a Jack Hermanson at 9 or Chris Curtis at 14 would be good shouts.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's his next move is fight somebody then there.
Yeah.
Maybe get back on 301. You could
Mhm.
definitely get on to 301 Brazilian
He only spent a
Sunday
minute in there, didn't he? So,
compulsory, right? And I don't think he took any damage either. I don't think he received more than 2 shots.
yeah.
You definitely fight a Chris Curtis who likes short notice fights as well, and it's not that short notice. Still 8 weeks away. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Oh, definitely. I'd make it happen.
you brought up the best point is he doesn't have to cut as much weight anymore, and he looks rejuvenated and
Yeah.
middleweight.
Yeah. Definitely. Completely agree. Taylor's not jumped on with us today, mate, but we both said last week, sub 30 seconds. So 18 seconds in.
18 seconds, yeah.
Welcome to the UFC.
Not much to say, but I find it, me and my boys were watching it. We laughed extremely hard. So the fight just started, 4 seconds passed, and John Anik said, this is officially a longer
The
fight,
longest.
the longer fight in the last 3 fights, and we couldn't stop laughing. And then, I mean, John Parisian, why would you blitz the guy like that? But it's pretty impressive. You knocked him down while
Yeah.
stepping backwards.
And
So,
I think it shows the natural power that he has as well, mate, because he
oh
wasn't
yeah,
really stepping into those shots, was he? He was kind of he just was
yeah,
quite casual and quite laid back, and they were not, they were kind of relaxed shots. And I think if you're putting someone's lights out with shots like that, then got to help him if you're going to step into it.
yep. Um, we could definitely probably see him fight somebody ranked with the lack of heavyweight contenders.
Yeah.
Um, somebody low in the rankings like they did for Gaziv last 2 weeks ago now. So,
Yeah.
but he's an exciting.
I think he'll move fast. I think
Yeah,
he'll definitely move fast.
especially if he keeps getting knockouts in sub 30 seconds.
Yeah. Joe Wood, nice sign off retirement there. Almost landed the perfect spinning back fist knockout.
He did hurt her. She did.
She
Did
hurt her.
hurt.
She
I
did
think.
hurt her. She just couldn't quite sort of seal the deal, could she? But that was a lovely one to get finished up.
And how good is retiring in front of a crowd?
Yeah, definitely.
Although it wasn't
Just
packed.
how it should be.
It wasn't packed, but it's nice. You got the chairs. You got to put the gloves down. You got a
Yeah.
moment with Rogan in front of the camera, and it was nice. That's how you want to end a career.
Yeah. And this is where we'll finish this one, mate. It's I've kind of slagged Dana White off a little bit at the start. I maintain that. I'm becoming less and less of a fan of Dana day by day. Everything he says just really pisses me off. But there's not really a conversation, is there, if we're talking about the number one organization in mixed martial arts? The PFL was on Friday night, Thursday night,
Thursday night for me. Yeah.
Thursday night in Paris. Main event ended with a splinter.
Yeah, that was
You
quite
just,
odd. I don't know how he got that. How did he possibly?
I have no idea, but I mean, if I saw Mark Goddard got quite a lot of stick for calling the fight, and then I saw a lot, like John McCarthy and a few others came out and defended him and said if he's asked for a timeout, they don't do timeouts, so he has to waive the fight off. They're the rules. I think a little bit of common sense wouldn't have hurt in that situation if him and the opponent were both happy, get the splinter out and get on with it. But also, Chito Vera just not got his face kneed off. He never asked for any kind of timeout or any kind of pause, and this guy's stopping for a splinter. I mean, I'm sorry, these guys are absolute animals, but if you can't, we've seen people fight with broken ankles, fractured
hands,
jawbones,
yeah.
fractured skulls. You know, we've seen all sorts of stuff in this sport, and my guy's pulling out with a splinter. It's just shocking. But PFL, you know, that was there. Obviously, the atmosphere in Paris was superb. Jack Grant, I interviewed a while back. Jack put on a great fight against the Laser King. Was unfortunate, really, not to come away with the victory, but the wagging of the finger. You know, I think Dustin Poirier did it as well at one point, didn't he, in his fight? And I think that was credit to Jack Grant from Thursday. But yeah, just decent fights, mate. But let's be honest, the UFC delivered this weekend, and we're going to roll straight into a couple of fights. Well, we've got 2-3 fight nights before 4 fight nights, I think, before 300.
Let me double check for you right there. Next week is it's
We've got Tuivasa
Tuivasa Tybura. Then we have
Ibasa Namajunas,
UFC
Blanchfield
Atlantic
Bureau,
City,
Victorian Allen,
and then 300.
and then it's 300.
So
on that note, we've got a packed out schedule ahead of us, but we'll sign off on that one for now, mate.
For sure.
And,
Can't wait to talk about 300 though.
Yes, we will be back. On the guarantee there'll be 3 of us there wanting to talk about that one. So we will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in, John. Pleasure as always, mate.
See everybody.
See you later.